Hey guys, it's Clyde Walker. Today I want to talk about something that I found out last week that I thought was pretty interesting. Apparently, the movie Radio from 2003 has a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. I had no idea that was the case. I always thought that the movie was praised because it's just such a good movie, you know? So what I'm going to do is read the rotten reviews that they've got on here and, discuss them. The first one right here is from Michael Compton. It's a film that has good intentions, but it's just unable to deliver, mainly because Gooding is never believable. I'm going to have to disagree with that. I think Gooding's performance was fantastic. I would put it on par with DiCaprio's performance in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Next one, I'm not going to read all their names. Despite the fine efforts of Harris and Gooding Jr., Radio nearly drowns in James Horner's overbearing sentimental music. Disagree. Thought the music was great. And there's not plenty of times, but there are times where Radio and Coach Jones have their moments together without any music. So, Oz from eFilmCritic.com. Awful from start to finish. It's an awful opinion from start to finish. No review, just scores. Richie Klein, Shadows on the Wall. The screenwriter seems obsessed with introducing dramatic conflict, which feels both strained and convenient. Well, if it's based on a true story, then those things would have had to happen. If true stories like this, typically the events that happen did actually happen. It just didn't happen within the same time frame or timeline that the movie says it happened. So, don't know what he's trying to get at there. Again, unless he knows the full story. Tune in for another formulaic feel-good story that will warm your heart and chill your mind. Well, that's just wrong. Chill your mind, as if there's nothing to gain from it, to learn from it. It's just like Remember the Titans, which has 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. Remember the Titans is a lot more heavy on racism, or just wanting to come together despite race. And Radio has that. Very small, but it's there. But they both share in the idea of fighting against bigotry. Bigotry against either race or bigotry against those who are mentally challenged. So they're wrong when it comes to that. Feigns compassion for the mentally challenged, but treats Radio as a pet, a toy, a prop. Okay, they even went over that in the movie itself, stating that's not what he is. That's not what he's meant to be. And if you watch the movie, it's obvious that he's not a pet, a toy, or a prop. He's very much his own person. So I don't think they watched the movie to its entirety. Or if they did, they clearly just missed the entire point of the movie. Hate to see what they said about Remember the Titans. Underneath the sugary sweet external coating of Radio is a cynical and pandering piece of hypocrisy. That's just objectively wrong. Gooding is never allowed to play a three-dimensional character, wrong, but rather human currency to be handed around wherever a character needs his or her consciousness raised. I can see how they got that idea, but clearly the character himself isn't legitimately passed between people. Though obviously he's talking about the movie passing him along person to person. And yeah, he's not entirely wrong, but at the same time, there's nothing entirely wrong with it. If Radio comes into someone's life and, touches their hearts or their minds and shows them that how they've been before meeting him has been, not so good, then good. they need to learn, and learning from him is one of the messages from the movie, if not the main message, that radio can teach people, you know, how to love, essentially. It's a nice story, yeah, and it does feel good, right? But it's too formulaic and syrupy. I mean, a lot of biographical films like that are formulaic. Watch Remember the Titans. This movie's extremely formulaic. And nothing against it. I love that movie just as much as I love radio. But yeah, they're both formulaic and syrupy, but there's nothing wrong with that. If a formula works, then it works. Yeah, they could have done something different, but it's 2003. They weren't exactly trying to make something new. There's nothing about Radio's life that seems to warrant a full-length movie being made about him. Okay. I would have to say that's the dumbest one so far. Okay. Just gonna move on to the next one. Yet another movie that takes a mentally challenged character and turns him into this kind of deity. This saint-like mascot who everybody learns life lessons from. He makes mistakes in the movie. What are you talking about? Deity. He's not perfect. He makes mistakes. And saint-like mascot. Well, I mean, have you met a mentally challenged person? They're not exactly evil. That person, just like the last one, just genuinely doesn't know what they're talking about. In spite of the ample filler footage showing Hannah High's prowess on the football field and basketball court, this radio will not have great reception. It is so soft around the edges, it just rolls out of bounds beyond interest or credibility. Ooh, nice play on words. So soft around the edges. So essentially the movie has no edge, despite the fact that the principal, who's a black woman, shows some mild racism against radio, stating that she is worried about her students being in a bus with a mentally challenged black man, which was her exact line. Don't know what this guy's talking about. Maybe how quick certain things get resolved. But the principal and her mild racism against radio is not solved quickly. It's not. In fact, it leads to a very heartbreaking scene. So, don't know what they're talking about. Radio is just another typical offering of formulaic family flair that screams virtuosity, my bad. When in reality, it whispers sappy platitudes, drippy and predictably soupy. Yeah. Again, I have to agree with it being formulaic. Screams virtuosity. I think what they're saying, 2003, so people weren't really using this terminology back then, virtue signaling. I think that's what they're getting at as a movie, is virtue signaling. For which, yeah, movies that deal with race or any sort of bigotry, when movies deal with sort of bigotry and, you know, promoting a message against it, it's virtue signaling. It doesn't matter how it's made. They can try and not virtue signal, but at the end of the day, that's what these movies are about, is virtue signaling. Granted, it is trying to teach you a message, you know, a lot better than what any average Joe on the internet could do. The contrived secondary characters, like the local villain who hopes to run radio out of town. He's not trying to run radio out of town. And yet another overblown score by James Horner keep it from truly succeeding. Contrived secondary characters. I wouldn't say contrived. I would say standard. Yeah. but they need to be around because the way they view radio and how they treat him in moments is realistic to how people would be. The local villain who hopes to run radio out of town, like I said earlier, as soon as I read that, he wasn't trying to run radio out of town. He's trying to run radio out of the high school. Next one. Gooding once again embarrasses himself, no he doesn't, in public with a performance that knows no shame. A habit he's getting frighteningly at ease with these days. Embarrasses himself with no shame. He can't show shame performing as radio. He can't. And he doesn't embarrass himself. He does a good job being radio. Even the real Coach Jones himself enjoyed Cuba Gooding's performance. Though probably well-intentioned, which it is, radio comes off as manipulative of his audience and exploitative of the mentally challenged. Have you seen Forrest Gump? Just have you? Did you like it? Did you think the same thing? You probably did. I'm pretty sure most of these are just going to be the same thing over and over again. Oh, it's sappy. Yeah, of course it's sappy. It's based on a true story, and it's about overcoming bigotry. Have you seen Remember the Titans? Have you seen... Well, Forrest Gump isn't based on a true story, but it's just as sappy. So, honestly, if you dislike movies that are based on true stories and you dislike them because of how sappy they are, you know, it's kind of like a genre film. You have to go in knowing that it's going to be sappy, and you have to kind of remove your dislike or hate for sappiness. You kind of have to remove it so that way you can look at the other aspects of the film. And I don't think that's what these people are trying to do. But yeah, most of them are wrong. Yeah, I understand it's just their opinion, but they have the wrong opinion. I really enjoy radio, and I know I was fumbling over my words. With all that said, I'll see you guys later.